Welcome back to all speakers present here. I would like to call Salman Sadid, Jabalo, Employee and Engagement. Hi, Salman. How are you?
Hello, can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. How are you?
You're fine, thank you.
Wonderful.
Let's have a short bio of Salman Sadid. The human brain behavior and interaction with the environment never fails to introduce Salman. After spending long hours in psychology lab at the University of British Columbia and completing her master's at the School of Business, she entered the workforce and observed a gap between what research suggests and what companies actually do increase productivity and profitability. Also, Salman strongly believes every single individual, regards to their race, age, gender, position, mental health matters, and physical condition, give us to reach their full potentials. And they also have something unique to offer. Salman, the stage is all yours. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm just going to check out the room to see how many people we have, who we are. All right. So I'm sharing my screen. Can somebody show thumbs up? So once they can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Amin. We can see your screen.
Okay, wonderful. So let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're coming from this world. I hope you're just having a good day. My name is Samin Saodat. I'm the founder and executive director of Jalapeno Employee Engagement. Something I just noticed, Pranika, that I'm 5 minutes early. Should I start now or should I wait for 5 minutes? What are your thoughts?
Start now.
Start right now? Okay. All right, I can do that for sure. All right, so to give some context to everyone where I'm coming from and how this presentation got me so interested in sharing it with you. So when I was 18, that's many years ago now, I was extremely interested and excited about the concept of parenting license. So that's the concept that whoever wants to be a parent, they need to go through a series of training. That doesn't necessarily only focusing on sex or health or sleeping or eating training for the baby, but also how to create and foster an environment that our kids, our children, can develop healthy mental and psychological development. So I pursued this idea at University of British Columbia in Canada, Vancouver, and I talked to many government agencies. And of course, I faced a lot of resistance because it's a very debatable concept. And then I continued my interest in cultural psychology, where I learned and did a lot of research to understand the impact of culture on our thought process, on our psychological development. And then I studied social psychology to understand how our environment, how our society overrides our behavior. There is a chat. And psychology of religion to understand the role of religion in our psychological development, to understand why every religion in the world expects us to do something costly, some costly behavior. And lastly, brain and behavior. That's where I explored how our behavior is shaped by the biology, by evolution of our brain throughout time. And then while I was doing a lot of research, I realized all these research findings stay in the academic world, and I wanted to do something practical. So I pursued my Master of Management at Southern School of Business, where I actually got exposed to leadership, where I had the opportunity to follow my initial interest of parenting through the lens of leadership. There are many research. I also wrote a paper on how leadership and parenting are the same concept, the same practices, but different contexts. And then while I was doing that, I started actually getting curious about why companies spend millions of dollars on employee engagement, employee training, employee benefits. So it's not that companies do not spend money on leadership development or employees training. They actually spend $720 million on employee benefits and training. Yet we only have 20% of our workforce actively engaged. Yet we still have high turnover and high burnout in workforce. And this can be extremely costly at individual level, at the company level, but also at economical level. Because every engaged employee costs American economy up to $500 billion per year. So it seems like we're losing money on both ends. We're losing money on both investing in our people, but also losing money by having a workforce that are not highly engaged. So I started doing this research to understand why is that the case. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about one of the factors that contributes to this. And of course, the findings of this research got me to start the business Jalapeno Employee Engagement, where now it's a tech firm that assess the psychological status of the team and help everyone to reach their full potential at workforce. So let's talk about one research. Before I actually share one of the factors that contribute to this dilemma, let's do some sort of game together. So I want you to read the question on the screen, and you have 30 seconds. So I don't know if you can put it in the chat or if you can just show thumbs up when you figure out how you should solve this dilemma. So I'm just going to go on silence. I give you 30 seconds to read the question and to think about how you would approach this problem. All right, so Dr. Prasad, can you please tell me if the audience can use the functionality of thumbs up or if they can put in chat box? Yes. All right, wonderful. All right, so can I have thumbs up if you could figure out how to solve this problem? And this is a very famous problem that you probably have seen in a lot of psychology experiments. So if you have seen this before, I will appreciate if you don't respond to this question, so we give the opportunity to the rest of the audience to experience how to solve this problem. All right, so what is this problem about? So in order to solve this problem, usually if this is something probably you have done as well, you start with putting 4 coins on each side. And then if it's equal weight, you put the other 4 coins that are outside on each side, and you're like, okay, I cannot use it for the 3rd time, and you get stuck. And then you start with 2 by 2. So to solve this problem, you have to start by actually putting 3 coins on one side, 3 coins on the other side. If it's equal weight, it means the 2 other coins that are outside, it's one of them that is lighter. So then you take one of those 2 coins, you take the 2 coins, one on the right, one on the left, and it tells you what's the lighter one. And if you have, for the first round, if you have 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, and if it's not equal weight, then you take the coins from the lighter side. So now you have to choose among 3 coins to find out which one is the lighter. You put 1 coin on the right, 1 coin on the left. If it's equal weight, the one outside is the lighter. And if it's not equal weight, it tells you which one it is. This is a very interesting question because when it was given to participants, the participants with highest education, it took them longer to solve. So including myself, it took me actually longer time to figure out what exactly it is. And when this question was given to kids at the age of 5 and 7, it was much faster for them to solve this problem. It seems like their brain still was not trained on exactly how you should solve every single problem. But when you go through all series of education, your brain gets the shape how you should approach such problem. And that's okay, start with 4 by 4, 1 by 1, which this is something we get trained on in school. I want to talk about another type of problem that we probably face on a daily basis. This is the problem that Stephen Little talks about it, which he calls it milkshake moment. So Stephen goes to a restaurant at the hotel. Actually, no, he's in his room. He calls the restaurant at the hotel. And he says, can I have milkshake? Can I have vanilla milkshake? So he calls the restaurant and he says, can I have vanilla milkshake? The guy at the restaurant says, oh, sorry, sir, we don't have milkshake. And Stephen says, well, do you have a big bowl of vanilla ice cream? The guy says, yes, certainly. Yes, we do have a big bowl of vanilla ice cream. Stephen says, do you have milk as well? The guy says, yes, sir, we do have milk. Stephen says, all right, can I have a half a glass of milk with a big bowl of vanilla ice cream and a long spoon to my room so I can make my own milkshake? So in this story, no one is really stupid. How our brain gets trained to solve problems, to accommodate requests, to accommodate demands, to solve dilemmas, that's what makes us stupid. The policies that constantly we put in place, the regulations, the laws that constantly we put in place to instruct people, that's what makes us stupid. And what Stephen calls those moments a milkshake moment. And I feel like this is one of those examples that many people can resonate with on a daily basis. So here's what's interesting. Over half of Generation Z, so that's the newest generation, over half of them, that's a big number, are feeling burnout. And burnout is not, first of all, it's a serious matter. Burnout is that when you start developing negativity towards yourself, towards your career, towards your colleagues, and it takes months to get out of it. And it doesn't come from spending long hours at work. There's absolutely no research to support that if you're spending long hours at work, you're burning out. But there are research that when you spend long hours and you don't feel like you're making progress, but you don't feel like you're in control, when you feel like you're facing problems that you cannot solve, that's what leads to burnout. When you have milkshake moments at moments that you at work, that you have those moments that you feel like, oh, I have to follow policy and I cannot serve milkshake, and you don't see the progress of your work. When you have problems like that coin, that you keep trying different way to solve it, but it just doesn't make it work for you. These are the things that leads to burnout. And our new generation are coming to workforce not feeling equipped that I can solve such problems. So in this world, we have 3 types of problem. The first type of problem is what we call simple, what actually Neil Perkin identifies them, simple problem. These are the problem like how you have to bake a cake. The solution is, all right, you need to have a recipe. The recipe tells you exactly what you need, how much you need each, for how long you should bake them, and when the bake will be ready, in what shape. So the school teaches us how to solve simple problems, reward us for solving simple problems. And then we have complicated problems. These are the problems that you do need to have a standard formula to solve them. But to come up with that standard formula, it's pretty complicated. But once you have the standard formula, you can solve any problem similar to that with that formula. For example, sending a rocket to the moon. It's hard to come up with the formula. But once you have the standard formula, you can send 100 rockets to the moon. And then we have problems, complex problems. What are complex problems? Parenting. Parenting is a complex problem. You can have 5 kids. When the 6th kid comes, you feel like you have to start all over again and looking at this with a new, fresh eye. Leadership, that's a complex problem. You can be a leader of 5 people. When the 6th person is adding to your team, you feel like I have to learn all about leadership all over again. And our world is becoming more and more complex and give us more complex problems to solve. With the globalization, with the whole digital world we are building a world that is extremely interdependent of each other. One change in one country is making a lot of change in another country. The interdependency we are building through this globalization and digital transformation makes problems more and more complex. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we ready for this world? Are we making our kids ready for this world? Is our education system making us ready for such a complex world that we are facing? So one skill that I would like to emphasize on, that I feel like it's essential. It becomes the essential basic skill we have to develop through our parenting, through our education system, through our workforce training, is anti-fragility. Anti-fragility is defined as a property of systems in which they increase in capability to thrive as a result of stressors, shocks, volatility, noise, mistakes, faults, attacks, or failures. So this is when there is uncertainty, when there is a lot of unpredictable factors playing a role, when there is a lot of failures, we are actually thriving in that environment. But what's happening right now? So I just want to emphasize that this is different than being robust. This is different than being resilient. We do encourage each other, and I think this is what we observed in the media and in sort of the talk that's happening during pandemic. We need to be resilient. Resilient is when you try to maintain your standard state. So for example, if somebody gives you a feedback that tells you these are the things that you didn't know about yourself and you need to work on yourself, what we're learning to do to be resilient, to try to have this defending wall to maintain our character, instead of trying to sort of merge into the feedback and try to grow by that feedback. Resilient is that when all those uncertainty happens, we do everything to plan to create certainty in the uncertainty, rather than embracing uncertainty and just try to get curious and keep doing random things to thrive in that environment. So this is not resiliency. I just want to make sure there is no misconception. The main difference is that you actually thrive due to uncertainty. You thrive due to stress. When you make mistakes, that actually excites you because the learning from that mistake, the learning from failure keep fueling you to do more. When there is uncertainty, that actually gets you curious to do more, to actually enjoy doing random things, rather than try to come up with 1,000 excuses to maintain your own ego or maintain your character to remain resilient. So I got very interested in this concept. I read a lot about this. And this is something I feel like we cannot afford to disregard, but it has been something that played a role from 4,000 years ago to make sure the innovation happens, evolution happens. And when you study Persian Empire, when you study Roman empires, all these big empires, what differentiated them, what got them to actually grow 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, was not necessarily because they had so many other, there was something, I don't know about them. The main factor was they were anti-fragile empires. When you look at the innovations and the evolutions that happened over the last many years in the history, it wasn't necessarily because there was a higher education playing a role, because they were anti-fragile, because they knew how to thrive in uncertainty. They were not constantly coming up with regulations, policies to kill the creativity that helps to actually thrive in complex situations, in unpredictable situations. They were not trying to keep coming up, creating certainty within themselves when things are uncertain, because that can kill creativity. And this is even against human biology, against human psychology. Why people fail out in workforce? Because we take the joy of actually just doing the work for the sake of doing the work and not trying to deliver a specific result. Just for the sake of playing with that work, just to do random things and experiment and innovate something. And that's why we get into the workforce and we hate our job. We burn out because we take that joy away by giving a lot of instructions, by putting emphasis on delivering results, but not actually just doing the work for the sake of doing the work and enjoying the task and the experiment, or doing random things. And I want to give you a few examples of the benefits of anti-fragility and how it actually played a role. Jet engine. Jet engine was not invented because of physics. Yes, that's a misconception that exists, and histories are written by people that not necessarily they themselves were biased, and that's a misconception that jet engine was invented because of physics. No, jet engine was invented because of tinkering engineers with no understanding why it works, because they keep doing random things during uncertainty, and they were like, okay, we built something. And that's why we have two types of knowledge. We have a knowledge that it just comes from doing things that we cannot even explain how it works, and the knowledge that comes from school theories and all the instructions. And this is what we see in workforce. We see people that they can have 10 years of experience, but if they never actually spend time doing random things, experiments, and getting into the task and really learning and inventing and innovating, the knowledge they have is just the knowledge of following instructions for them. And they get overwhelmed when they face with complex problems that requires them to start doing random things until figure out the best result. Let's do another example. Medicine. Medicine was not invented because of biological understanding. That was a misconception. Medicine was invented due to luck, trial, error, side effects of other medicines, or sometimes even poisoning. And we're still coming up with new medicines through all these experiments that you're like, okay, we tried to fix this, but actually it worked. It fixed another thing. So we realized this is a medicine for not X problem. This is a medicine for Z problem. And another example, Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution didn't happen because of growth in knowledge and education. If you actually go and look at the history and look at the pattern of different countries it was not the education, increase in education that increased wealth. It was increase in wealth and doing adventurous and by hobbies that actually got to countries to increase their education. So we do need such behaviors. We need to develop such behaviors to be able to function in such complex world. And that's actually how evolution happens. And there are so many examples from new evolutions, such as Apple, the company, Airbnb. They didn't feel like, okay, this is the instructions I want to follow. Apple had a very strong imagination and started experimenting. Airbnb for 5 years, they were just experimenting, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this business model works, and it grew. So actually that's how evolution has been happening. And we cannot afford to continue with learning how to bake a cake when we have to solve complex problems. We get into school, we look at the school curriculum. This is what we see. It tells us exactly every week, every day, how it should be spent, what we need to follow. And we ace following instructions, and we start building a false ego that I know how to perform. I know that I can take care of any problems, but it's just a false ego, because we're just teaching you how to bake a cake. Well, you need to come and solve complex problems in your workforce. But you'll be doing it by actually keep rewarding you by following instructions and building a big ego that actually takes that opportunity away from you actually sitting down, experimenting, and having fun with mistakes, having fun with failures. Well, we have to try to function in such a world that there is absolutely no certainty all the time. There is always that black swan. There is always that unpredictable thing that will happen. Not everything will go as we plan. And this is something that how we should get our brain to thrive in such environment. And this is actually how our brain, as in terms of evolution and instinctively, is what gives us joy. Is just the joy of doing something. But we are building a culture, building a society to keep getting excited if there is a result, but not getting excited of actually doing and getting something and doing random things and try to get some lesson learned from those failures, from those random experiments that we are doing. And then we wonder why half of our new generation in workforce are burnout. But when we see such shocking stats, when we look at our new generations that they feel paralyzed when they join workforce, what do? Do we actually start questioning our parenting? Do we actually question our education system? Do we question our leadership in workforce? No, that's not what this is not the common pattern we see. The common pattern we see, we start feeding the companies that provides painkillers for our new generations, that gives us the social media to validate our self-esteem, that we never built by actually solving complex problems. We reward companies like Netflix that actually just gives us instructions how we should live our life, how we should think, what's the norm. So it just gives us the suggested movies to follow because this is the thought process we want everyone just to follow right now. And in this way, if they're going through extreme pain of solving complex problems, instead of trying to give them the skill to solve those problems, we give them opportunities to ease their pain, to manage their pain, by validating themselves to go on social media, by being reactive individuals, so then everything else is making decisions, by taking that independent thinking away from our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Samin. It was a wonderful speech. We have a few questions from our audience. Let me raise a queries from my side.
Sure, and I'm just going to stop sharing screen. So you share the questions with me, or I go to the platform to see the questions?
Yes, Samin. The first question is, are there any research or studies conducted on the negative impacts of too much resilience, development, and education? Hello.
Hello. So I'm good. So so it's jalapeno.
Sorry.
Oh, just 1 second. Oh, all right. I just had the platform. Sorry. Can you hear me fine?
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, please, because I was on the platform and I got confused. Please go ahead. What's the question again?
Are there any research or studies conducted on the negative impacts of too much resilience, development, and education?
Too much resilience, the negative impact. I see. So in terms of the negative impact of resilience, I don't think there is negative impact. I don't think this talk was referring to, my intention was not to say building resilience is something negative or education is something negative. In anything in the world, when you do excessive of anything, of course it becomes negative. But the emphasis on building resiliency without going to the next level, which is actually, all right, you want to build the resiliency, there is actually tons of research on the positive impact of resiliency. But that positive impact, it helps us to survive and keep going. But we have to think about what is it that can help us go to the next level, which is actually thrive when crisis hits, thrive when the stressors are becoming overwhelming for us. So I wouldn't say there's negative impact of resilience. It's definitely a very valuable skill to develop, but it's completely different than anti-fragility. And I just wanted to make sure we don't mix these two skills together.
How do cultural beliefs play a role in a person's resilience to their chronic diseases such as cancer or diabetes?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. I like this question because it talks about culture, religion, and this is exactly what I'm excited and what I did a lot of research on. Definitely, culture plays a significant role. Culture is culture and religion. At the end, it's the power of mind over our body. And there are actually tons of research that how cancers, I don't know much about diabetes, but I've seen a lot of research that how cancer can be healed with the power of mind. And that power of mind is shaped by your cultural belief, how you're seeing sort of fighting cancer, how your culture builds that resiliency with you. And at the same time, your religion, even the religious belief of how sort of how you, even the perception towards the cancer you're fighting can impact your healing process. And another research on this one is the role of social support, that how social support can play a significant role from recovering from cancer.
Wonderful answers, Samin. Thank you so much. Give her a big round of applause.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks audience for paying attention and listening to me.
Thank you.